where you talk about this. Finish this sentence. My God can blank. My God, what? My God can do all things. My God heal. My God can save. Supply all of our needs. My God can get rid of mosquitoes. Testify. Anybody else? My God can comfort, love, do anything. Okay, so my question to you is, how do you know that? How do you know that? We say all these wonderful, powerful things about God. How do we know that? My God can heal. My God can do anything. My God can save. My God can love anybody. My God can do that. How do we know that? Esther, you said it. Because He's done it before. He's done it before. So often we come to the next obstacle. We come to the next thing that's a big, scary something in front of us. And we very naturally, because we're frail, awful human people sometimes, we freak out. I'm facing something very, very scary. I'm facing something that is way too big for me. I'm facing something that I've never faced before. And we wonder where God is. We wonder if He will help us. We wonder where our help is going to come from. Often we have to fall back into, He's been faithful. He has helped us before. My God can do anything is kind of easy to say, and then it's hard to put that into practice. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, it says this: Now faith is confidence in what we hope for. See, we are faith people. We are faith people. Christians are faith people. We look around and somebody says, oh yeah, where's your God? And it's not like we go and, we worship Pastor Joe's very special red guitar, and we can come and touch it and honor it and put fruit offerings before it. And, we don't have a God that we can go to and touch and see and pay homage to. So people say, well, you guys just believe in something that you can't see. Yeah, that's true. We are faith people. And in case that's not clear, the writer of Hebrews says, faith is confidence in what we hope for. That sounds sketchy. I don't like to hope for something. I like to know that it's there. I don't want to wish for help, rescue, healing. I want to be able to bank on it. Hebrews 11, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance of what we do not see. Do not see? Do not see? I don't like that. I want to see it. I want to see it. But we are faith people. We live by faith. We have to put our trust in God, and often we look around and we cannot see God. See, if I put my trust in Bill, I know where Bill lives. I can go and see Bill, and Bill's been pretty trustworthy. But I hate to break it to you people, Bill is just Bill. And there may be a time that Bill isn't present. There may be a time when Bill's gone out with Joe to eat barbecue, and they didn't call Rich to take him along with him. So I go to Bill to be a help and to be a rescue, and he's not there. We put our trust in a God that we look around often and we can't see it. And so people on the outside of Christianity, they often look at us and they say, you people, you just kind of put your trust in something that you can't see. We do that all the time. We do that every day. We do that whether we're believers or not. Have you ever flown on an airplane? Okay. Do you remember your pilot's name? No. Mr. Pilot man or woman, it's 2019. Okay? Mr. Pilot person, whoever you are, I hope you were paying attention. Because I've put everything that I am in your hands. Every time you come to an intersection and you have a stop light, you stop. And then when the light turns green, what do? You truck your bad self out into the middle of the intersection, putting faith in everyone around you that they are going to pay attention to their red light. Every time you go to the doctor, some of you have faced surgery, the doctor type puts that thing over you and tells you to count backwards from 10. You hope they were paying attention in school before they did that. And then somebody, while you sleep, is going to cut you with a knife. You hope and you trust and you have faith that that person knows what bone's connected to the other bone on the inside of you, and that at the end of this procedure, they hook you back up the way you're supposed to work. Way down the line, we have faith when we go to lunch today. We have faith that the guy who makes your pizza washed his hands. Yeah, I know. Okay, so no pizza for lunch then. Okay, we have faith that people who prepare our food have our best in mind. We live by faith every day. We live by faith every day. We put our hands, your cute little bundles of joy. What do? At 7 o'clock in the morning, you chuck those little kitties outside and you put them on a big yellow bus. Right? And those kids drive away. We put our faith in others. We put our faith in others all the time. And so how can we say, my God can do anything, my God can heal, my God can save? How do we say that? Because He's done that before. He's experienced, and we've experienced that in our lives. We are faith people. Turn to the book of Exodus, Old Testament, second book in the Bible, Exodus chapter 14. I'm going to read a few verses. I'm going to do it a little bit. Jason, good luck, man. If you're the screen guy, good luck, because I'm going to speed race through some of this. Okay, stand up with me, will you, to honor God's word. Exodus chapter 14, starting in verse 5. If you remember, for hundreds of years, the Israelite people have been in slavery. They have served the Egyptians. They have come under horrible, harsh slave conditions, and God has promised to set them free. And Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, let my people go. And Pharaoh says no, and Moses says yes, and Pharaoh says no, and Moses says plague, and Pharaoh says no, and Moses says next plague, and Pharaoh says no. Back and forth and back and forth. Finally, Pharaoh's had it up to here and says, leave, get out of here. And then the light bulb goes on above his head that he's let go all of his slave labor. So Exodus 14, starting in verse 5. When the king of Egypt was told that all the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, what have we done? We've let the Israelites go and we've lost their services. Their services, that should be in finger quotes, their services. So he had his chariots made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites. And when marching out boldly, the Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea. Go down to verse 13. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid, because the Israelites out now leaving and fleeing, they saw the Egyptian army coming up behind them. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. See, that's that faith statement. My God can do anything. My God can heal. My God can save. Okay. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you need only to be still. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water, so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so they will go in after them. And I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all of his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, that I will gain glory through Pharaoh and his chariots and his horsemen. Go to verse 21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. And all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea with dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and a wall of water on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficult driving. And the Egyptians said, let's get away from these Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea so the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back into its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. Well, praise God. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. You can be seated. So on the one side, the slaves of Israel, the Israelites were leaving Egypt. On the one side was slavery, oppression, pain, and the whip. And on the other side of the Red Sea is freedom and hope, a future. But in between was the Red Sea. And so picture for yourself, picture you're an Egyptian slave. You're a Jewish slave. You're leaving Egypt. And all of a sudden the army is coming up behind you. So there's an army of chariots and horsemen behind you, and there's the Red Sea in front of you. And what's between you and freedom? One 80-year-old man with a stick. Yeah. And God says to Moses, lift up your staff, and I will part the waters. And he does. He lifts up his stick. He lifts up his stick. And God does God stuff. And God parts the water, and it dries, and the slaves leave Egypt. By foot, they just walk across on dry land. The Egyptians think, well, if they can do it, we can do it, and they follow them in. God caused a big traffic jam, and the water comes in and wipes out the whole army. Bada boom, bada bing. Freedom. And then we're going to summarize quite a bit here. 40 years later, almost the exact same thing happens. Okay? Turn to the book of Joshua. Turn to Joshua chapter 3. We have summarized. Let me summarize. There's too much. Let me sum up. 40 years later, the Israelites have wandered in the desert for 40 years. And now they come to the promised land. But between the wilderness and the promised land is the Jordan River. Again, a water hazard. Between where we are and where we want to be is the Jordan River. On the one side is the wilderness. On the one side is wandering. On the one side is uncertainty. But on the other side of the Jordan is a home and promise and rest. Finally, rest. We were slaves for hundreds of years, and then God led us through the Red Sea. When Moses parted the Red Sea, God brought us out on our way to a new home, but we rebelled and we had to wander for 40 years. Now, God has brought us to the promised land. We can see the promised land, but between us and there is more water. Oh, If only Moses was here, if only we had Moses' stick. Right? So in Joshua chapter 3, it says this. Joshua chapter 3, verse 7. The Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all of Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river." Wait. That's different than last time. That's different. Last time the leader stood up with a big stick, held up the stick, and the waters parted. Now you're telling us just to walk into the water? Is that video ready, Jason? You ready for that? I want you guys to watch this.
Jesus, I just don't trust you.
You don't trust me?
Start it
No,
again
I mean, I
and
want
turn
to
up the
trust you,
volume.
I just don't.
I have an ex.
Because this is kind of, we need to know who
Jesus,
these people are.
I just don't trust you.
You don't trust me?
No, I mean, I want to trust you, I just don't.
I have an exercise that I think will really help.
Oh, okay.
Stand here and face this direction. Now, do you trust me?
No, I just said I don't trust you.
All right, well, this is all part of the exercise.
Oh,
all right?
right, okay.
Whenever I ask you if you trust me, you say, "Yes, Jesus, I trust you."
Even though I don't.
It's practice.
Okay.
So, do you trust me?
Yes, Jesus, I trust you.
Now, fall back.
Are you going to catch me?
Don't worry about that part.
Okay, that's the part I'm worried about.
You can do this, okay? Just trust me.
Trust you.
Fall back.
Okay, well, Jesus, I trust
Good.
you. Yes, I do trust you. I'm going to fall
Okay.
back. Woo!
Oh, okay. Let's try this again. Just face this direction and keep your feet planted, all right? Do you trust me?
Yes, Jesus, I trust you.
Now, fall back.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
All right.
I'm really gonna do it. Okay.
Good.
Oh, Jesus, you really caught me! I didn't think you were gonna catch me, but you did!
Oh, that was great!
That was great!
You're ready for level 2.
Level 2, here
Yes.
I come, baby! Woo! Whoa!
Okay, hold it.
Oh, you know what? You're too close. You need to move back.
Ah, right.
Okay.
This one's a little bit different, Laura.
Oh, okay.
Stand here,
Uh-huh.
but face me.
Woo! Forward fall. I
Okay.
can do that.
Wait.
Whoa.
Okay, wait for my signal.
Oh, right, the Jesus signal.
Yes, the Jesus signal. Do you trust me?
Yes, Jesus, I trust you so much.
Good. Fall back.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, especially when you do it.
Seriously?
Of course.
Okay, Jesus, I don't know if you noticed this, but there is nobody over there.
I know it looks that way to you.
It looks that way. It is that way.
You can do this, Laura. Just trust me and fall back.
Jesus, I can't do that.
We can do it together.
I can't.
You can.
I won't.
So in Joshua 3, the story goes like this. From Exodus, we see Moses stood up with the stick. He lifted up the stick, the waters parted, and all the slaves of Egypt, all the Israelites, walked across on dry land. 40 years later, it's Joshua. And God says, hey, get the ark of the covenant, representing my presence, get the Ark of the Covenant, have the priests come to the edge of the water that is still flowing and step out into it. In Joshua 3, starting in verse 7, the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all of Israel, so that they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river." That's completely different than what he did last time. That's kind of like we fell back and we saw God catch us, but now we are looking at him and he tells us to fall back. Now we've got to exercise that trust, that faith. Keep reading, verse 9. Joshua said to the Israelites, "Come here and listen to the words that the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you and that he will certainly drive you out before all the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, those. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, as soon as they set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off, and it will stand up in a heap. As soon as you step out, then the water will stop flowing. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Somebody had to be the first one. The priests carrying the Ark, somebody had to be the one who got to the edge of the water first. And that guy was probably checking with his squad leader. Seriously? Seriously? Just, when's Moses going to do the stick thing? It's okay. Go ahead and step out into the water. The water's still going. Just step out in the water. Now, the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. It wasn't a little creek. Wasn't a nice, gently flowing, babbling brook. It was flood stage river. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away, and it was completely cut off. The water quit flowing. What's the difference between Moses 40 years ago and Joshua 40 years later? It was that step. It was that step. And folks, that step is faith. We say God can save, God can heal, God can do anything. And sometimes we see. I love when we see. I love when we see what God's going to do. I love when I look around and I can just sense, I know what God's about to do. I love that because I can see it. I can put my hands on it. And then there are times that I look around and I have no idea where God's going to come from. And I have no idea if He's powerful enough. And God says, come to the edge and take that first step out into the water. And I just wonder, did the heel of his little Nike hit the water and it just stopped? Or did his foot get ankle deep? Did his foot get wet? Did he have to step all the way out? Did the water come up to his knee? He was commanded to take that step out. Did you guys watch Indiana Jones? Okay, remember the leap from the lion's mouth? All you children of the 80s, all right? He had to take a step out into the unknown. He didn't see the path before him. God often tells us that we must trust Him. Because out before us is the promised land, and He wants us to go there. But the way He calls us, we can't always put our fingers on. It doesn't make sense. I love when things make sense. I love when things, I know how they're going to pan out. But we are, Hebrews 11, we have faith and confidence of what we hope for. We have confidence in what we hope for, assurance of what we do not see. We trust in God because He's able. What is it that you need to trust God with? You probably came in today with something that is too big for you to handle. It's a relationship, it's finances, it's work stuff, it's family stuff, it's your marriage, it's your kids, it's grandkids, it's uncertainty. You've got something right now that's too big for you to handle. And when we tell God that, He already knows. But He's told us to come and to give Him our burdens. So what is it? What is it that you've got right now that's too big for you? That we need to put our stated beliefs, my God can do anything, now into practice and hand them over to God. I don't know who wrote this, but this is great. We trust God because He's able. We trust God because He's strong. We trust God because He is wise. We trust God because He knows where we are. Okay? The people leaving Egypt that got to the Red Sea, they were exactly where God told them to go. And God knew where they were. 40 years later, He brought them to the edge of the Promised Land. They were exactly where God had led them to be. But now they had to take those next steps. We trust God because He has showed Himself to us through Jesus. We trust God because He's been faithful before now. He sustained me up until today. So if He sustained me until today, my guess is He's not going to drop the ball later this afternoon. If He's been faithful to me up until today, the same God who's God in March 2019 is the same God who's going to prove Himself able in April 2019. We trust God because He's promised to never leave us. He's given us the Holy Spirit. We trust in God because He's given us the church. He's given us each other. And folks, at the end of the day, we trust God because where else are you going to turn? Who you going to trust? Who you going to trust? Bill? Bill's out with Joe eating barbecue. Who you going to trust? The government? Good luck with that. Who you going to trust? Some new politician? Who you going to trust? Some tech guru, finance, Zuckerberg type person? Who are you going to trust? At the end of the day, God has been faithful. God has been there for me. God has sustained me before now. God will sustain me and be with me going forward. God has promised to be with us. We're going to pray together in just a moment. And I want you to pray with me. Would you stand up with me? We've got stuff we need to